quality-wise, yeah, it isn't perfect. If you don't think that this is a very attractive car, you are wrong. It feels like you're driving something worth 3 or 4 times the amount of money.
Can we just clear up the whole Skyactiv G and Skyactiv D bullshit first, please?
Okay, in this video, we're going to be taking you through everything that can go wrong with these. We're going to show you how they've aged, what they like to live with, what they like to drive, but most importantly, we're going to tell you if you should really buy one or not. But before we get into all of that, we just need to set the scene here. The Mazda 6 has been around since the early 2000s, but in this video, we're just going to be focusing on the third generation 2012 to 2016 GJ Mazda 6. Now you might be thinking, hang on a second, this thing looks a whole lot like the current Mazda 6. What the hell is going on here? Well, you're right. The current generation, or the GL, is basically the same as this, short of some aesthetic and equipment differences. But for whatever reason, Mazda decided that the GL is different enough to give it its own designation. But the way we figure it anyway, one of these, an early one of these, is going to be a good indication of how a newer one's going to age anyway. Now, GJs are available as a sedan or a wagon with either a petrol or a diesel engine powering the front wheels via a 6-speed automatic transmission. Trim spec wise here in Australia, you can have your 6 in 4 different flavors, and there was a pretty substantial update in 2015 as well. Now we'll take you through all of the details of all that in a second, but pricing wise here in Australia, these things, they top out at around about $25,000. The most affordable ones, but they kick off at under $10,000. However, I jumped on the ReDriven cheat sheet, looked at the driver car loan calculator and worked out that I could have this exact car for just $54 a week. Now, finding that out took no time at all because the entire process is done easily online. Driver not only customized me a finance package, but they found me the best possible rates from dozens of different lenders, and there are no hidden fees. Plus, we want to make you guys a deal. If you do all of that with your next car purchase, we're going to give you $150 worth of free fuel if you do it via that link below. Now, look, I know we're all entitled to our own opinions, but if you don't think that this is a very attractive car, you are wrong. Plus, this is the base spec with the smaller wheels, and it's in black, which doesn't translate very well on camera. It looks so much better in the flesh. But better yet, each update looks better and better, let alone if it's wearing the larger Atenza wheels. Then you've got the ones that are wearing larger, classier aftermarket wheels that are lowered a little bit. Oh my God, look at these. Now, this being the 2013 means it is the pre-update. The 2015 update changed the front grille and the headlights, plus the suspension and the sound deadening were all revised. However, looks-wise, it all might be amazing, but quality-wise, yeah, it isn't perfect. We'll show you what we mean in a second. Now, even though this is a base spec early model, you still get fog lights and automatic headlights, although the Atenzas and some of the GTs, they swap these out for bi-xenons, and they also swap the 17s out for 19s. But it's inside where you're going to see the biggest difference with pre and post update and trim specs. This early Sport gets a decent enough 6-speaker sound system, Bluetooth connectivity, a reversing camera and satellite navigation, although the graphics on the screen seem more appropriate for an early Nintendo 64. The Touring, it then adds an awesome sounding 11-speaker Bose sound system, leather trim, power adjustable front seats and parking sensors, while the GT and the Atenza, they just add more tech, as you can see. But the really obvious change is with that update. This is obviously a pre-update interior, and this is a post-update interior. As you can see, the entire design was updated, the material quality is improved, different driving modes were offered for the petrol models, and tech-wise, Mazda's MZD connectivity infotainment system was installed. And for those of you wanting Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, you might be better off looking at one of the post-update systems with the MZD Connect system, because even though these technically didn't include CarPlay and Android Auto, you can install it via either Mazda or a third party. In fact, Sam, that's holding the camera right now, he did that on his Mazda 3 and it works a treat and wasn't very expensive. The MZD system I'm talking about is anything with this floating screen, as in this Mazda 3, not this one. Although in saying that, you can put Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in here, you've just got to remove this entire thing and put an aftermarket system in. But just on that, make sure you use quality components, because we do know of some owners that kind of cheaped out on this and it's created all sorts of electronic dramas. But pre or post update, this interior is such a lovely place to be. The seats, this is the base spec and they are so comfortable. The seating position and even just like driving position, spot on. Even though this is a pre-update model, the materials, everything you touch feels really nice. This feels so much more expensive than what you would expect for a $14,000 car. Look, okay, yeah, there are some hard, scratchy plastics here and there, and wear and tear wise, the texture on the steering wheel is kind of getting shiny, same as on the gear selector. Gloss black plastic, bloody manufacturers in their gloss black plastic. I don't know why they do this. It just gets scratched up as it has in this car. But besides that, the door cards are quite good. The fabric on the seats are wearing really nicely. This thing's got over 120,000 Ks on it. It's a decade old. It feels, I think, really good. And then practicality-wise, up front, you have a little cubby storage bin here. Under this little trapdoor, you've got 2 cup holders. I love that it has a trapdoor, so when you're not using the cup holders, it looks nice and clean design-wise. You've got a spot really nicely sized for your phone under the center console. Pretty good size. It's an okay size glove box. Spot for bottles there, spots for life's filth and secrets and bits of hair and sleep from your eyes in there. And that's about it for practicality up front. Oh, no. Sunglasses, put your sunnies up there. Now in the back seat, I'm exactly 10 centimeters taller than another fan of the number 6 Formula 1 world champion, Nico Rosberg. This is in my driving position, and it is so comfortable back here. My knees aren't rubbing against the back of the seat, heaps of foot room. The seats themselves are so comfortable, and you sit kind of low, so it kind of feels like you're in a bit of a lounge chair. It is dark back here, but then the glass house is well designed, so I don't feel too claustrophobic. Lovely place to be. Wear and tear in this particular car, obviously every 6 is going to differ with wear and tear. Not too bad. I think there's been maybe a dog or a cat or something back here, because there's a lot of hair going on. The seats, there's a few interesting stains here and there, but not too bad. Door cards are good. Wear and tear, okay. Then practicality in the back, air vents, map pockets, door bin, armrest, cup holders. Now in the boot, fun fact, this is one of the largest boots in its class, and also this has 14% more cargo space than a Mazda CX-5. Yet people seem still to be obsessed with buying SUVs because apparently they're practical. Plus, how cool is this cargo cover? And when you put the seats down and get rid of this, look how much space there is. Okay, so what is this thing like to drive? It is so impressive. I gave the ND Mazda MX-5 our award for the most fun car that we drove last year. And this might sound crazy, but you can tell that this shares DNA with that awesome thing. Like, don't get me wrong, this is not a performance car at all, but it's genuinely engaging to drive, and it's engaging at any speed. See, where some of the European rivals can honestly feel a bit boring and soulless at these sort of around town speeds, this is just enjoyable all of the time. Plus it feels totally comfortable and refined, and it just feels like a really high quality and well put together thing. Plus the petrol engines are reported to be really fuel efficient, and the diesels, they're seeing numbers of like 5 and 6 litres per 100 Ks. Also, because it's agile and feels fun to drive, it hides its size. It feels so much smaller than it actually is. Plus, you'd expect a naturally aspirated 2.5 litre 4-cylinder front wheel drive car not to be all that fast, but it's quicker than you're expecting. Again, not performance car fast, but like, yeah, nice. Honestly, this has to be one of the most underrated driving experiences in all of car world. It feels like you're driving something worth 3 or 4 times the amount of money. Actually, I've got a challenge for you. Go and drive one of these, and then go and drive a $70,000 European car of the same kind of segment, and tell me that this doesn't match them for the driving experience. But there are some negatives. At freeway speeds, the road noise can get a little bit annoying. If you floor it off the line in the dry, it does sort of axle tramp. And if you are, let's say, an extroverted personality and you like people looking at you, no one's going to look at you in these, because there are plenty of them around. Attractive car, but it doesn't shout, look at me. Also, while we're driving, we really should talk about safety, and no big surprises here. The 6 is loaded with safety gear. But it does seem only right that we have someone from this car's country of origin do the next voiceover, so it's my Japanese mate, Brian.
少なくとも6つのエアバッグ、ABS、電子ブレーキ力配分、ブレーキアシスト、電子スタビリティコントロール、トラクションコントロールが期待できます。ただし、より高スペックの最新モデルには、前方障害物警告、スマートブレーキサポート、ブラインドスポットモニタリング、車線逸脱警報システム、リアクロストラフィックアラート、レーダークルーズコントロールなどのマツダのアイアクティブセンス安全技術が組み込まれている場合もあります。すべての安全技術の詳細については ReDriven.com にアクセスし、チートシートを確認してください。
Okay, now welcome to the heartbreaking part of the video, what goes wrong with these things. Let's start with the exterior, and first up, It's the bloody thin paint. Plenty of owners have complained that this chips and marks and even scratches too easily if you polish it too hard. Now, the 2017 and 2018 models, we know that's the GL, but it makes sense to mention it here. In that gorgeous crystal red metallic paint, that is extremely susceptible to damage. Now, plenty of owners have been complaining that apparently this front lip is too low and therefore really susceptible to damage when you're going over gutters or through driveways and whatnot. Although in saying that, I've been driving very lowered performance cars for 20 years and I've had none of those issues when driving this. Now, plenty of owners, not of just Mazda 6s, but of all cars, have complained that when it rains or they get crap on the windscreen, their wipers do a terrible job at dispersing the water. Luckily, we have a solution to this, and it's WiperTech wiper blades. Now guys, we genuinely love and use WiperTech, and that's why we're so happy to promote them. They are so easy to order online, they're gonna fit perfectly, and they're easy to install, and they're gonna be some of the best wiper blades you've ever used. Plus, order them via the link down there and you're going to get 15% off and free express shipping. Okay, now common problems inside. Firstly, the bloody iStop technology. This is the tech that basically turns the car off when you're waiting at a set of lights to apparently save fuel. Plenty of owners have complained about this. Sometimes it can get so bad that you get a battery management warning light come up on the dashboard. Also, many owners claim that this reduces the life of the battery. Other owners then claim that that is complete bullshit and has no effect on the battery whatsoever. I tell you what, the arguments online on the forums and the owners groups, it makes for an entertaining read. Actually, just on that, a massive thank you to all of the owners groups and forums for helping us research this video. Also, Auto Outlet Direct and Cars for Sale, thank you so much for lending us this 6. You guys are legends. If you're interested in buying this exact car, the link is below. Now, on earlier models, this door trim along here, this fabric, it can actually kind of peel out and come loose, but it's a super easy and cheap fix. Now, there are a few reports out there of owners with the Bose sound systems either getting like white noise or the sound sounds really, really muffled. Generally, it's an issue with the amplifier, but be warned, Mazda apparently charge a fortune to fix it. Bose Australia, they want nothing to do with it. What you should do is take it to an independent electrician, even somebody that looks after hi-fi systems and music equipment, because it's actually not a hard fix and it shouldn't cost a fortune. A few owners have complained that their MZD Connect systems, the screens can lock up. Generally, just restarting the car fixes that, but also sometimes it does need a full software update. Also, a few owners have complained that the air conditioning just isn't cold or powerful enough. Maybe it's just them being really sensitive, or maybe it's just their car, because in this thing, yeah, the aircon is cold and powerful. Okay, now mechanically, what goes wrong with this generation of Mazda 6? I can't tell you, I'm sorry, because I'm not a qualified mechanic, but Jim is.
Can we just clear up the whole Skyactiv G and Skyactiv D bullshit first, please? We've actually had customers come into the workshop asking if we're qualified to work on Skyactiv vehicles. Now, the truth here is that it's just marketing. It's the same as Honda Earth Dreams and Toyota Dynamic Force. It's just marketing. Mazda will claim that their engineers have perfected a very complicated way of managing valve time and ignition timing to create the perfect energy, blah, blah, blah. We've heard it all before. But what they're actually doing is using valve timing techniques used in the Atkinson, Otto and Miller cycle engines, you can Google that, to make a car efficient. Now, it's not new, it's been around for about 70 years, so it's just marketing bullshit. Now we've got that sorted out. Now, the petrol engines in these, they are actually very reliable. They do have some issues with timing chains and timing gears. Not a common issue though. The later versions with the direct injection, as per all cars with direct injection, they are going to clog up the inlet manifolds, and when it gets bad enough, you will have to chemically clean it or walnut blast it. It's pretty common these days. They do have some slightly more serious issues with oil pumps failing and the oil pump pickup blocking as well, which can cause, obviously serious oil pressure issues. In the petrols though, not hugely common. The engine mounts in these, they do lose their cushioning effect. They have like a polymer elastic fluidy stuff in there. And when that leaks out, the engine mount just fails to absorb vibrations. The engine's not going to fall out, it just feels terrible. Now the diesels in these, they are fucking shit. They have very common issues with their turbos and wastegates. They just have catastrophic failures. They are extremely expensive to fix too. They have camshaft issues where the lobe just disintegrates, also very expensive to fix. They do have a fairly common problem with oil pressure. Sometimes it's a blocked strainer, other times it's an oil pump issue, or other times it's an oil pressure control solenoid. Look, every one of those options is expensive to fix and pretty common too. If they're poorly serviced, they have a lot of issues with oil dilution, and that actually exacerbates the camshaft problem as well. And a really common problem, it's less expensive but more common, there's a manifold pressure sensor that's just at the back of the engine. Now there is a superseded part from Mazda which fixes this issue. Heads up, you can buy the same kit from aftermarket suppliers too, and it's considerably cheaper than the Mazda version. But I just again want to emphasise the diesel in these is to be avoided. Older versions of these had a Jatco transmission. Now these actually have a Mazda transmission which is way better. It's actually pretty reliable. They do have a fairly common issue with their selector position sensor though, where that's actually inside the car. Fairly easy to fix as well. It's just a position sensor and a switch. Overall, excluding the diesel obviously, if they're well serviced, they're generally fairly reliable.
Okay, so after all of that, should you buy one of these? I'll tell you what, you shouldn't buy a diesel. They are to be avoided. But this thing, not only should you buy one, this should be at the very top of your list if you're looking at buying a family car, and that includes SUVs. One owner told us that the Mazda 6 was described to him as a reliable Alfa Romeo with better build quality and cheaper maintenance costs. And that is pretty much spot on. See, for what a car like this should do, the Mazda 6 is pretty close to perfection. The Mazda 6, honestly, it ticks so many boxes. But then again, so does this, and that's also a little bit more exciting to drive, although it is somewhat mechanically compromised. Go watch that to find out. But a question for you, if not this or that, what would you buy? Let us know in the comments. See you next time. Now, plenty of apparently too low, and it's